Bitch, I got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems. I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm garbage, I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone in progression, it's all that I wanted. The phone in affection, I summon and dub it. Cause bitch, I got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems. I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm garbage, I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone in progression, it's all that I wanted. The phone in affection, I summon and dub it.
Why you be all in my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Don't hang with a nigga who lying for nothing. I see that we different, you riding, I double. I don't do discussions on bragging about hundreds. Don't go to your places, I know that they sunken. Don't call me your brother, I barely could trust it. I talked to a shorty, she bagging the bucket. And I'ma need all of my dollars on corporate, so hand me the money, I divvy the pie.
That was going to be a nice little segue from a sick gym edit into how to structure your leg training as effectively as possible for hypertrophy or to get big legs. I was going to say WAP legs, but WAP has seemingly turned a different direction because of Cardi B. So yeah, it was going to be about how to build big legs.
Sweater is wet, come take a dive. Tie me up like I'm surprised. That's role play. I wear disguise. I want.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
But unless you've been hiding under a rock, Mr. Boris, I mean, I'm specifically talking to the UK people here, which is a bit unfair, but Boris has basically shut gyms down in the UK, and as of Thursday, yeah, they'll all be closed, right? So we're going to be speaking about how to program as effectively and efficiently as possible to make the most out of this 4 weeks, presuming this is 4 weeks long, and we'll go through some kind of tips and tricks, and then we'll also go through some like equipment that you should pick up, presuming you're not the person with a decked out home gym. I'm mainly going to talk about if you have sweet FA, what we can really do in this time. Oh, beautiful. Number one thing we shouldn't really do is just kind of have this feeling of, I can't do anything. It's an awful time, the gyms are shut, etc. But what we should really kind of consider and be blessed of is that we can still wake up and do exactly what we want when we want. That is the kind of epitome of what freedom is, right? So yes, they might have taken our gyms, etc., but understand that you could be in a hell of a worse situation in life, right? You could wake up and not kind of go to the nearest Tesco or not go to the nearest supermarket and go and pick out any food you want. Yeah, you could be in a lot worse situations in life, right? So when we talk about how to structure our programming for hypertrophy, specifically, we're going to be talking about programming more than nutrition here. We're all going to be kind of very specific with that side of things, very individualized, whether you're on a massive diet, etc. So when it comes down to programming, presuming, again, we have limited equipment, we're going to be speaking about two things. Number one, rep ranges, and number two, proximity to failure. Now, number one, we can gain muscle between 5 and 30 reps, which is quite a big basin, a big kind of target. Now, if we have limited equipment, is 5 going to be that plausible? Not really. So we're mainly going to be speaking about the kind of the upper echelon. So mainly having things between 15 and 30 reps, which is completely cool, especially if you've been kind of battering yourself in the gym, like most of us have, between kind of the July and October or November now. So in that time, we've kind of had joint stress, etc. So in this time, could actually be a cool time for like a metabolite type of phase where we can dissipate kind of joint stress, etc. by having low loads. And again, understand that we can build muscle in this kind of rep range. That's tip 1. Tip 2 is going to be proximity to failure. Number one thing to consider is that we need to be training pretty close to failure, and when we're in that upper echelon of the rep range, understand that knowing where failure is very tough, or knowing where your RER is very tough. Knowing where failure is relatively easy. You know when you're going to fail. But knowing like 4 RER and kind of distinguishing that between 4 RER and metabolite buildup is very, very tough. So my advice in this time period is taking things extremely close or to failure is kind of a little bit, quote unquote, necessary. Man behind the camera. Hey. Now we can now further that chat and say, look, we've got rep ranges, cool. We've got proximity to failure, cool. Now sets. I've found anecdotally from working with clients from lockdown 1 or previous lockdowns that we need a little bit more sets, a little bit more volume, just because that each set in the gym is very, very stimulative, and then when we're home, they're just not as stimulative. But it doesn't also come with that fatigue trade-off, so we can actually we can have a little bit higher amounts of volume. And if you've already got a high MRV, what we would do is then utilize like supersets, so you aren't working out for like 4 hours. So you'd utilize like supersets, etc. And this is a good time to utilize supersets because they're not that fatiguing, especially with the low amounts of load.
My running coach told me to increase the volume of my runs. So I unplugged the headphones and played my music from the speakers instead.
Ha! Volume joke. Now, when we're talking about what equipment to purchase, if you haven't already got some, one very cheap and effective piece of equipment, not really a piece of equipment, kind of an accessory, BFR bands. Very, very, very cool, but disgusting at the same time. We can use these with things like bicep curls, quads. You can get ones that are kind of bigger for your quads to have like city squats or squats, etc. But we're seeing with low amounts of load that one of them worn, we could have a kind of 40% 1RM and still achieve the same amount of stimulus as you were at kind of 90% 1RM without one of them bad boys on. They are disgusting, but very, very effective. I tend to only program them if I have an injury or a client has an injury, but in this period, it's advisable to grab them. Another great piece of equipment is a cuff, a carabiner, and a little resistance band. We can pretty much emulate a cable as much or the best we can. We can just step on one end and then just kind of either do a lat raise, a pec fly. We can do kind of a bicep curl, etc. They're not like for like with a cable, just because it doesn't ping back as much as a resistance band. But a very useful and again very cheap method. And again, you could even pair that up with a BFR band, and you can look like Mr. All the Gear and No Idea. I don't think this is right. Also, things like dumbbells and barbells laced with this type of equipment is pretty perfect. So they're really like the 3 or 4 bits of equipment that we could use in this lockdown period and be completely fine. So just to recap, BFR bands, cuffs, some kind of carabiners, some resistance bands, some dumbbells, and some barbells. Now, you've got how close you are to failure and rep ranges. You've got the additions of sets you could benefit from a little bit higher volume in this time, and you've also got gym equipment. And now we can really start speaking about the last thing, which is going to be kind of intensity techniques. So things such as kind of myo reps, things such as drop sets, things like supersets, etc. are very beneficial in this time, just to make it a little bit more fun, not necessarily from an optimality standpoint, but definitely to make things a little bit more fun. So myo reps would be kind of doing like 15 reps, having a little bit of a breather, doing another 5 reps, having a breather, 5 reps, until the reps start to drop off a little bit. That would be myo reps. Drop sets would be starting at a higher load, presuming you have kind of different loads. Things like adjustable dumbbells are very, very good in this time for for drop sets. You can just click in, put it back on, then click off, and then kind of have a lower load. So you can do things like drop sets where you have a higher load, do like 12, 13 reps, etc. Then have kind of lower loads and kind of go very, very close to failure there. And yeah, and that's all we can do in this time period, really. And that's how to make the most out of this 4 weeks, is actually just do some things. Again, to go back to earlier, you have the ability to wake up, do your own thing, and really in this time period we can still make progress. We still have that ability to make progress, so why not utilize it? Why not?